the film really is a love letter to underdogs, and to these sort of like geniuses in the rough, and for them to be nominated for an Academy Award on their first time being in a film is really affirming and special.
Sam, welcome to Director's Notes.
Thank you, Sarah.
No worries. So, for those of us, those out there who don't know, give us a quick introduction, your name, your film, and obviously, congratulations.
Thank you. My name's Sam Davis. I directed a live action short film called The Singers, which tells the story of a group of kind of sad, lonely men at a bar one night who have a spontaneous, impromptu sing-off to decide the best singer in town, and it yields this sort of unexpected moment of connection.
You guys had my favorite sort of nomination celebration because you were all at that bar, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, loved
we
it.
called the bar where we filmed and we said, "Hey, will you open up for us at 4 in the morning?" And they're like, "Why?" But we convinced them to do it, and yeah, and we had a nice little reunion and got to see some of our cast and crew again back in the womb
Yeah,
for that really special moment.
yeah. No, it's great. I was watching it and I was like, look at them in the bar.
Yeah,
And you have one of my favorite lines out of all the short films this year, which is spare $100 to help fight cocaine withdrawal.
yeah, it's a good one. Improvised by
Was
Will
it?
Harrington.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
It's just brilliant. It's just one of those lines that I was like, yes, that is just excellent.
Yeah, I mean, the film was made without a script, and so each of the guys really is pulling from their own real personalities, all first-time actors,
Yeah.
and that was something that, it never occurred to me that there would be this sort of heckler character, in the film, but he showed up, and Will is a busker on Bourbon Street in New Orleans, and has this kind of rough personality, and he's a hustler, and so when he showed up on set, he started doing that, and we leaned into it, and it came very organically for him.
Yeah. No, well, I think you need it because there's a lot of heaviness in that bar. And sort of you kind of
Hmm.
need someone who's ping-ponging around and bringing up the levity.
Right.
So this is not your first rodeo in terms of Oscar nominations, but you're in a different role now.
Correct. Yeah. My
I
first
mean,
time.
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say my first time as a director.
As a director.
I've campaigned a few times now, but always in support roles, and yeah, there's a little bit more pressure, I
Yeah.
think, at least for this sort of thing. I think I was just as busy, producing a film that was nominated and pushing a campaign along, but yeah, I'm in the spotlight a little bit more now, and for better or worse, and just trying to enjoy it, and yeah, I'm really really honored to be recognized in this way as well.
Yeah. Well, look, so as your role sort of as director, but with your cinematographer head on, I'd love to get deep into like cameras. Like, how many
Mm.
did you have? Because it's a small
We just
bar,
had one.
right? Just one tiny
Yeah,
bar. And so
yeah, one
where,
camera.
yeah. So tell me about sort of knowing where the camera was going to be because of all the improvisation. How did you work that all
Hmm.
out?
Yeah, I'll never forget our first safety meeting we had, when we started the first morning, and our AD Dustin caveated for the whole crew, that he said the schedule on this one is interesting in that there isn't one. And the crew was kind of, you saw people looking around like, oh God, what do we get ourselves into? Um, it wasn't, we didn't make the film without a script or without a schedule or without a shot list because we ran out of time or something like that. It was a very intentional choice to try to tap into my documentary background and all the magic that comes with spontaneity, really.
Yeah.
and so we left it extremely open-ended. There was no shot list. There were certain moments or ideas that I knew I wanted to capture, like the dollar bills on the ceiling, for example. I always imagined a shot that pushed in on the $100 bill, or so it's not to say that there was nothing premeditated, but as far as the coverage went, and bopping from
Mm,
shot to shot, that was really truly improvisational, just like the performances. We would build around things. So, we might spend a little bit of time almost in like a documentary, almost like in an interview setup that didn't look like an interview.
mm,
Um, get guys talking a little bit. And once we found something, we would start to build around that. Oh, that was a really good moment. I think I want to use that moment. So let's turn around and cover it with the reaction, or this guy will weigh in. These two war veterans, one from Vietnam and one from Afghanistan. This is really interesting. They happen to sit next to each other and now they're sharing. Let's sort of start to build this out like a scene. But it was really, really jazzy in the way we went about it.
yeah. So how do you manage like the technical demands that you've got? You've got to have a certain amount of coverage and you know that you've got to have
Mhm.
angles covered, but you don't want it to be artificial.
Yeah. Um, we just did. I don't know. And a lot of it comes together in the edit, I think.
Yeah.
Part of what helps is that we wanted the first half of the movie to be very tight, almost claustrophobic. It's almost exclusively singles. And the idea there was to kind of isolate these characters in the darkness, early on, and eventually for the composition to start to expand as they start to kind of unite as a community.
Mm,
Um, and so that afforded us a lot of flexibility in the edit because we could, kind of piece things together a little bit. It's this sort of disorienting um humdrum in the beginning of the film, first 5 minutes or so, which are kind of intended almost to lull you to sleep.
yeah.
Um and yeah, there was a lot of clever editing that kind of wove the story together through those more documentary moments.
Yeah. I mean, that beginning, because I first saw this, I was judging some Holly shorts, some of the competition
Mm,
there. And I first saw this as part of this. And, I don't know if you've ever judged a lot of films, you sort of like try and watch them in blocks and watching them. And
hmm
this one started. So I knew that there was going to be something to it. But I had
hmm
no idea what to expect. And it was brilliant because then I was
Yeah.
talking to a colleague of mine who was judging it. And I was like, there's this one film, The Singers. I was like, I'm not saying anything because you don't want to tell anyone anything. You don't want to ruin.
Yes. Yes. Well, thank you.
So yeah, you did it good there.
Thank you.
Right, I want to get technical because all of these incredible voices were live recorded.
Correct.
I bet was that always what you were going to do? That was important. That was part of it.
Yeah, I think so. In a way, this is like a weird sort of docu musical drama or something
Yeah.
like that. I think it's a really unique hybrid that we went for. And part of that was just making sure nothing ever felt too polished, like a studio musical or something. We wanted it to have this sort of rawness, and feel kind of found almost. And so we recorded the music in sort of took sort of a two-pronged approach where we recorded traditional film sound for everything, but we also, when we could, for the music, we hid studio mics like behind the piano,
Okay.
or off camera somewhere where we had an opportunity. And that way, in the mix, we were able to kind of dial up or down the pristineness of the audio in that way. Ultimately, I think we used 90% standard production audio because, again, it felt so true, in that sort of package.
Yeah, because sort of watching it, you've got the power and the loudness of opera, and then you've got a kind of
Mm,
sultry quieter reverb of kind of the
Mhm.
blues. And so
Yeah.
those microphones, was it just, hoping that you'd pick up the different volumes?
Yeah, I think most of it, truly most of it was just shotgun mics, kind of boomed out over the top of the frame. And obviously all the guys were laved. When I shot the film, each day we would only record sound twice. So we would hit record when we arrived in the morning and we got all the guys laved. And then we would hit record we would cut at lunch and then we hit record again afterward. And so there was, 12 hours a day of raw material of this very real and rich banter between this cast of random guys, we had cobbled together from all around the world. And all that was material that we painstakingly cut through to kind of build this soundscape, which plays out underneath the music and the sort of principal dialogue. Um, but yeah, the music was all recorded live on set.
Yeah. What about in the toilet? Because there's like special kind of reverb for that performance.
Yeah, I mean, we might have dialed up the reverb a little bit in the mix, but it really did have this almost church-like quality in this dingy bathroom. And the way I kind of sold it to Judah Kelly, who won Australia's Got Talent
Yeah.
um, some years ago, was he because he was genuinely shy on the day, and he was a little stiff and and I went into the bathroom and as I was peeing, I just looked around and it looked so different. It looked very sort of feminine and soft in there compared to the woodsy bar interior. And I just had him walk in there with me and sing a little bit, and his voice just, reverberated like an angel. And we decided to do his song there while he was taking a pee.
Great. And it all
Yeah.
just, yeah. Because I mean, there's a beauty to improvisation and, filming
Mm.
something that makes it look like you've planned it, but it's improvised. And yeah,
Mhm.
that's what I really wanted to know because the sound and getting
Well,
that perfect.
yeah. Yeah, and I think part of the challenge was I wanted to see if we could have a look that was really classical and cinematic, shot on 35 millimeter film and really intentional in the camera work. Um, but then within that frame, for there to be this sort of wildness, this like unpredictability and spontaneity from the cast, at least in terms of the casting, um, the script, so to speak, and the performances, if those could feel really like kind of volatile and unpredictable, but to be captured with that level of intentionality.
Yeah. I mean, for the casting, it looks like you sent out the most specific, like, casting sheet ever and got sort of
Mhm.
everyone you wanted from those different things. And I know you worked with
Mhm.
Natalie Lynn, who you'd worked with before.
Yes.
So
Mhm.
tell me about your relationship and finding these gems.
Yeah, well, most of the work was done on social media, just scrolling endlessly. I would send people to Natalie. Natalie was looking also. Um, and yeah, like kind of like making a documentary, a lot of trust building, a lot of time spent just trying to get in touch with people. I wanted people who were hard to find. I
Yeah.
didn't want, someone who had a manager or something. And so that was kind of part of it was the chase. And Natalie's amazing at in particular at street casting. And so she and her team cast um they scouted at bars in greater LA for some of the minor patron roles, and met some incredible characters that way. But Natalie's also instrumental in just establishing her own kind of dialogue with each of the guys, even if because I found most of the singers in advance of even bringing her on social media. But then Natalie just has a great ability to make them comfortable, and start a dialogue. And because they're all taking a big leap, none of these guys have ever done anything like this before, never thought they would.
Yeah.
And Yeah, she has this sort of soothing, reassuring personality, and is also just gifted at spotting talent. So
Yeah. When you were looking for people, so sort of it was like the opposite of doom scrolling. You're doing like the happy scrolling, trying to find the people. Did you know exactly what you were looking for, or was it shaped by who you were finding?
yeah, it was very much shaped by who we were finding. It really felt like as I was casting, I was also writing because each of those guys represented like an explosion of source material that we were introducing into the pot, into the if we were making some sort of soup.
Yeah.
um I called it chaos soup. Like Muffin, the sort of hillbilly guy from Arkansas, he injects so much good chaos into the movie, and I found him in a video where he's doing exactly what you see in the film, which is some sort of altercation with some townies in a hardware store. And the video had very few views, but I was healthy scrolling and found it. And
Healthy
yeah, I'm
scroll.
just so happy and proud that so many people get to see uh, this type of talent. These guys didn't even know that they could do this a year ago. So it's been cool, and now for it to go this far.
Yeah.
The film really isn't a love letter to underdogs, and to these sort of like geniuses in the rough, and for them to be nominated for an Academy Award on their first time being in a film is really affirming and special.
Yeah. As it should be. Yeah, these are people that I think it shows people's tastes. You want to see something different. You want to see people's stories that are real. I think that you can see
Mhm.
reflected in life. I think that's a good reflection of it. What
Right.
about your emotional arc? I mean, sort of with the singers and who we've got, and was that all in the edit? Because you bring us along on a journey, even though if you just laid it out like people singing, you might not have been able to describe how you were going to do that.
Mm. Yeah, well, I wanted the movie to start with a fight and end with a hug. So I knew, thematically, very big, broad strokes, that we were going from sort of hardness to softness. And Yeah, the way the songs played out, um, the thing that I knew going into it was that Mike Young would be effectively, he plays the bartender,
Yeah,
that he would be the last singer. Of course, there's the opera singer button, but I consider that more of a less of a narrative beat and more of a sort of a just a button, a comedic button. And so I knew we were kind of building toward Mike Young, and that would be the kind of emotional heart of the film. Um, but yeah, the rest of them, like everything else, were kind of a game time decision. We were all in the bar together, and I decided that Chris would go first, and he'd be followed by the sort of the energy and aggression of Will.
yeah,
It was the piano player, and this really gravelly, kind of intense delivery, and
yeah.
then the surprise of Mike, and well, I guess technically Judah goes first in the bathroom. No, yeah, Judah goes first. I'm getting
I'm trying
confused
to
now.
remember.
Yeah, it goes Judah, Chris, Will,
Well,
Mike, opera singer. Yeah,
yeah, and then with
but
Will as well, you really like you dive in. We get very like it's handheld, isn't it? We're right in
yeah.
base. So
That's the only handheld shot in the film.
yeah,
I just felt as we were doing it, I wasn't planning on shooting any handheld. In fact, we only had 1,000-foot magazines on the camera, which are like these
it's
huge. It's
huge.
not you're not meant to be handheld, and but we handheld that one shot with Will, because I felt like his voice sort of couldn't be contained, and I just like wanted to be up in there and almost like a documentary space.
Yeah,
So yeah, we just ripped the camera off and went for it, and I love the way the energy that uh complements um complements his voice with.
Yeah, it does. It's sort of because each one of them, they could just be on their own. I could watch them on their own individually, and then there is this just this beautiful sort of
Hmm.
interweaving between them, and then the opera, like you said, as sort of
Hmm.
it's a great end. You just kind of we've got it, we high, and then it cuts.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think we say what we need to say, and you feel what I want you to feel, and then you can still be you can still laugh one more time and smile, go out smiling. And so yeah, I just wanted to kind of undercut the reverence of that final moment with a little more humor and energy to kind of send you on your way. But hopefully, you're moved and you laugh and feel all sorts of things throughout the film. That's what we were going for.
yeah. I think every time I've watched it, I come out with like a different song that's stuck in my head.
Mm.
And then earlier I was watching it, and then it was the fish. You know that fish that was everywhere at the time, and
Yeah,
he
I'm
popped
sorry
up at the
about
beginning.
that. Sorry that that's stuck in your head. No, I like the idea that the fish would be the first singer, technically, as we were um developing the film, and I kept seeing that fish because it's just kind of like an Americana staple, and it's in so many of these types of bars.
Yeah,
And I thought maybe there should be a fight in the beginning, and then the fight and the fish. Those two ideas sort of connected, and so yeah, so someone gets thrown into the fish, and that's sort of, in a way, that's sort of what's, if you really dissect the film, which I'm not sure how many people will dissect it to this extent, but if you really dissect it, the fish is the first singer. Um, After someone is thrown into it during a fight, and then Will is sort of, or Judah is sort of humming the song that the fish is singing, and Will hears him and mocks him, and then the idea of singing sort of emerges out of that. So really, we have the fish to thank.
there you go. And that was your plan all
Yeah.
along, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I know this is sort of a tricky question, and it can't really be quantified. I'm going to ask you anyway. Like, what do you think it is about this that is really capturing people's attention? There seems to be something so special in like a load of gruff old men
Hmm.
singing in a bar.
Hmm.
Like, so
I
what
think
do
it's a couple
yeah,
things. Yeah. Yeah. I think people are responding to what the film says about vulnerability, especially with men, I think.
yeah,
I don't think it's a film necessarily for men. In fact, some of the biggest reactions, have come from women over the course of our festival run. Um, but I do think, yeah, it says a lot about how powerful vulnerability and connection can be in sort of yielding compassion and brotherhood or community. And um, it's something we're talking a lot about today, I think. I grew up in a small town in Michigan and had a good upbringing, but I wasn't, I wasn't really taught like the other boys in my life how to express myself emotionally and how to be vulnerable. And I think I found out later on in life, or as I matured, that I could do that through art, and so in a meta way, this is sort of me expressing, bearing my soul a little bit, I think, by making this film. And then I think people are also just responding to like I said, this sort of the underdog quality, and getting to see these guys have their moment in the spotlight, and for their talents, which have gone kind of unsung, uh to be really recognized and put on a pedestal.
yeah. And are you going to stay in the director's chair?
Well, yeah, I think because I spent a lot of my career co-directing. Directing is not a new thing for me, but people are noticing my directing work more and more because I'm directing as an individual right now. So, but I don't intend to, cinematography, producing, editing, those have never been a stepping stone for me toward directing. I've always kind of considered myself a filmmaker. And as long as I can, I want to continue to do that. I love working as a cinematographer and elevating other stories and collaborating with other filmmakers um and I'm also really enjoying doing my own projects. So I'm trying to do the impossible, which is stay several different things. And it's at a certain point, who knows, how my career will evolve, but I'm really happy to just be on a lot of meaningful projects and contributing however I can at this stage.
Yeah. What have you got going on at the moment that you can talk about?
Well, I'm in year 6 of 7 on a feature documentary. It's sort of like documentary boyhood, um, about a basketball prodigy.
Nice.
And yeah, that's a film that I'm co-directing with another filmmaker named Kurt Schneider, who's also from Michigan, where I'm from. And that's probably the outside of campaigning, which is all consuming.
Yeah.
That's kind of my main thing at the moment, but I'm looking ahead at making a narrative feature soon. And I can't say anything about that yet, but that's kind of my next big thing after the campaign and finishing my documentary. Um,
Yeah.
so
It's
yeah.
always one of the trickier questions for me because often people are like, can't tell you about anything.
Mhm.
They'll sort of
Mhm.
lead into things, but
And
they
part
can't.
of it for me is less that I can't tell you and more that, the the iron is hot with the nomination, as a director here, but I've been careful probably to a fault in my career and spent a lot of time making shorts and some really good shorts and could have had a lot of opportunities probably to make a narrative feature by this point, but I have not even as a DP, I'm really kind of selective and thoughtful about which projects I do and I've never wanted to like dive into something that I'm not sure about because we just pour so much of ourselves into our work, and I know it's going to be 3 years or 5 years or something when I do, and so yeah, I'm trying not to rush into it, but that's definitely a next step that I'm looking forward to.
Nice. All right. So talking about shorts, this is something that I'm asking everyone on the fly. You don't
Hmm.
have time to prepare, but I want you to tell me favorite short or shorts, sort of ones that come to mind, ones that are
Hmm.
just always there for you, and a little reason why.
Mm. Have you seen this? The first one that comes to mind is this film, $6.50 Man.
Don't
Have
know.
you seen it?
No.
Oh, you need to check it out. I think
Literally, my
unless
list
I'm
is
butchering
so
the
long
title,
now. It's brilliant.
I'm pretty sure it's $6.50 Man. It's
Okay.
quite old. I think it premiered at Cannes, maybe won that year. Um, just absolutely incredible performances from these kids, and similarly, kind of like a sweet little underdog story. Maybe that's something that I'm drawn to. Trying to think of some other shorts that I really love.
Have you seen a lot in your festival
Hmm.
run?
Yeah, like from this year.
Mm,
One of my favorite shorts that I saw this year was called One Day This Kid by Alex Farah.
okay.
Stunning drama, um, shot on film, really incredibly crafted, really beautifully shot, and it spans like uh, 15 years or maybe more in this story. Just so ambitious. I think I'm drawn to anything that takes big swings. That's what I tried to do with the singers, obviously, is just make something that is, take a lot of risks and make something that may not succeed. But I think I would rather try to do something new, which is really tough today. There's so much stuff out there and so much good stuff.
Yeah.
Um, than play it safe, especially with a short. And one day this kid is just an extremely ambitious and beautifully crafted sort of poem of a film.
Yeah. Did you have people when you were sort of telling them about singers telling you were mad? You're like, right, I'm going to bring these guys together in a
Yeah.
bar, and there we go. And there's no,
hmm
there's no scripts.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Um, I actually am still shocked that we pulled it off and that we could even make the film because it was such a sort of out there approach. And
Yeah.
my first call with my producers, David and Jack, I literally said that. It was like, I'm gonna do this, we're gonna adapt this 1850 Russian short story without a script, cast all first timers on TikTok and shoot it on 35 millimeter film. And those two are the only people on earth maybe who would have said, "Okay, let's do it." Sort of no questions asked.
Yeah.
And so I was really lucky to get to even make the film, let alone all of this,
All-
all this.
Yeah.
So
Out of
yeah,
out of sort of all of the moving parts, was
hmm
there something, because sort of you're looking at it and there's so many things that come together and it all works. Were you worried that there would be something that wouldn't work? It would fall out? Like, was there, if you
yeah.
certain singer or something like that?
No, well, yeah, I was worried about everything. I was worried people wouldn't show up to set. I was worried, I would get ghosted by someone locked into the cast, and that
Yeah,
that
yeah,
did
yeah.
happen.
Oh, you
But
got
actually,
ghosted by
my
someone.
oh, absolutely, yeah. When the guy who plays the old man actually was cast 1 or 2 days before the shoot because the originally cast actor whose name is, maybe I won't say his name, but he's sort of like a TikTok personality. He's very old, incredible sort of Johnny Cash-esque voice. He got cold feet about getting on the plane because
Oh,
he hadn't
right.
flown since Nam, he said. And so he called us 2 days before the shoot and was like, "Sorry, I'm not coming." And so that was really devastating. I can't, but we knew it was coming. It was like you don't make a movie in this way where you're embracing this much chaos and then not have something fall through. So there were plenty of little things like that, but I think the thing I worried most about as a filmmaker, when it came to like the actual crafting of the movie, was like the turning point in the film where there's where it's stated that, okay, now we're going to have a sing off. Because I wanted it to, my goal was for the film to feel very organic and almost documentary, but that's like an impossible moment to pull off in kind of a documentary way.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that it kept me up at night. And then eventually on set, what we realized was we just needed to kind of lean into that moment. And for that to, when you watch the film, it almost feels like a little stylized. It almost feels like a Coen Brothers movie or a Tarantino movie or something, the way the sing off is announced. And that moment kind of emerges out of the most documentary section of the film. So there is a little tonal shift there, but in the end, it came together in a way that I couldn't exactly have foreseen. But now I really like the tone of it. So
Yeah. Yeah. I think it ends hopeful, which is what we all want. You've got the right sort of
hmm
level of drama, and
yeah,
I think you've done something which is unexpected. And
yeah,
that's what's so
that's
refreshing.
a huge compliment.
Yeah, well, that's definitely what I took away from it. And that's why it's like, I can't really describe this to people because you don't want them to sort of wait to see what's coming, when the sing off
hmm
does come.
hmm
And just, yeah, these voices. And I love as well that we're taking sort of TikTok and all of this, this little snapshots and putting them into a more considered form where you're watching it and it's a bit
Right,
longer and you can appreciate it a bit more. I really
right.
enjoyed that
Yeah.
side of it.
Thank you.
So, no, you're so welcome. I'm a big fan of the film, and thank you. Thanks for talking to me.
Of course, Sarah. I appreciate it.
No worries. Best of luck campaigning, all of
Thank
that
you.
joy, and then you can get back to filmmaking.
Oh, yes. I can't wait.
Yeah.